If you haven't seen this Ashton Jeanty tweet, I want you to see it right now because this is pretty incredible. On runs with 1 or more yards before initial contact in 2025, we've talked about this a little bit. Bijan Robinson, 6.8 yards. Ashton Jeanty, 6.78 yards, essentially identical. Success rate, Bijan, 71%. Jeanty, 71%. Missed tackles force rate, Bijan, 25%. Jeanty, 25%. Yards after contact per rush, Ashton Jeanty, 3.4 yards after contact per rush. Bijan, 2.8 yards. Jeanty performed after initial contact as good as the best running back in the NFL last year in probably the worst running back situation from an offensive line standpoint, from an offensive coordinator standpoint in the entire league. Now he gets Clint Kubiak. And half of Dynasty, half of Dynasty is being affected by either coaching change, because we had, I think, a third of the jobs in the league open up this year. All of them got new coordinators. Even the ones where we didn't get new coordinators, like in LA, we got a new head coach, we got a new coordinator, like Mike McDaniel. So almost everybody in Dynasty has been affected by this, but you've got to know what to do with these players. Is it stock up? Is it stock down? Is it stock neutral? Plus, you've got a whole host of guys going to free agency. What should you do with those guys before they hit free agency? We're going to tell you in this video. And again, we're going to go through each player here that's been affected. We're going to talk about how their stock has been affected and what you should be doing and expecting from their market value here in the coming months as we enter the Dynasty offseason, truly now post Super Bowl. Drop a like. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoy these type of videos. And I just planned on having this more, kind of like people enjoyed the discussion video about the picker player. Similar thing here for Ashton Jeanty. Clint Kubiak goes there. I think, in my opinion, and we can kind of both give our verdicts on this. For me, it's stock up for Ashton Jeanty. I would also say it's stock up for Brock Bowers. You talk about Clint Kubiak going there, but also, and I don't think he's hired a coordinator yet, but you are going to get Fernando Mendoza there almost certainly. So you're going to get a new quarterback, which show a quarterback upgrade, head coaching, a huge upgrade, and you get an offensive mind. And Clint Kubiak just won the Super Bowl. Obviously, Kenneth Walker was probably the main story of the Super Bowl, won Super Bowl MVP. I don't think you saw consistent high output fantasy production from Kenneth Walker, but keep in mind Ashton Jeanty is much better, and there's nobody there to even contend for touches with Jeanty like there was in Seattle when Charbonnet was contending with Walker. So for me, Ashton Jeanty, after being in the worst situation last year in the entire league, in my opinion, for running backs, he legitimately probably had the worst situation possible.
And was still very productive.
He was extremely productive. A lot of people talk about him like he was some kind of bust this last year for fantasy football. Obviously, in Dynasty leagues, he's still going in the second, which is great. But for him to even finish as a running back 1 last year in that offense was incredible. He averaged 3.67 yards per carry, but again, almost all of his yards were after contact last year. Almost every single one. He had 73 targets and 55 receptions last year in that offense. Had 5 receiving touchdowns as well. Ashton Jeanty was a running back 1 in his rookie year, and he's only going to get better. And I think Clint Kubiak makes that situation even more appealing for Ashton Jeanty, who, again, is going to take a step forward as a runner and as a player as he gets more experience in the NFL, but also now has a much better situation. Stock up for Ashton Jeanty for me big time here. I think he could be somebody who is he's already going second round. If he has a good season, man, he could easily be a top 4 or 5 running back next year in PPR leagues. I think even with McCaffrey still going, even with Bijan and Gibbs and guys like that, I think Jeanty has that type of upside.
Yeah, I think once you show any semblance of a passing game in an offense, the floodgates kind of open for a really talented running back where they can capitalize on that and produce. Actually, honestly, a really good example of this was the Colts this past season. Once they had any semblance of a passing game, of a consistent passing game, JT had the best season of his career.
Yeah, he did great.
So that's, I think, is going to be kind of a similar situation here with an offensive minded head coach in Clint Kubiak, who's a very great play caller. Fernando Mendoza is going to come in there. He's going to be fine, most likely, and that's going to be better than what Geno was last season. That's going to help Jeanty quite a bit. So,
Kyle Pitts, I'll let you take him.
Yeah, I think with Kyle Pitts, he had a season that, when you look at the top numbers, when you look at the end product, which was tight end 2, and almost 1,000 receiving yards and 118 targets, you're like, oh, that's awesome. And then you realize okay, on a points per game basis and from a production standpoint, what was the stat? The gap between Trey McBride and Kyle Pitts was the same as Kyle Pitts and Cade Otton. Yeah. So that really is more look, I'm not going to be anti Kyle Pitts here whatsoever. I'm going to be totally honest. Kyle Pitts is a guy that produced to a level this season that I did not think he was capable of, because this was his best season ever. Mm-hmm. His first year, when he ended up being the tight end 1 in Dynasty for a hot minute there and a first round pick, he only had 176 points in 17 games. And this year averaging again in 12 12.5 points per game almost. So again, like 12.5 points per game for a guy that's being priced in the 7th round, like that's a pretty decent price point for a non-elite tight end who does have a decent amount of upside if he can keep the touchdowns going. And that's something that you saw like a little bit of a tick up this season, 5 touchdowns, and obviously the target volume being higher than we've ever seen. The interesting thing with Kyle Pitts, and the reason I think that he could be a riser, is not only do you have a coaching change in Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski, but he's an unrestricted free agent this season. So Kyle Pitts, honestly, you could put him in the free agent category here because it's no guarantee that he ends up staying in Atlanta. I think regardless, I'm going to be totally honest, I think regardless of what happens with Kyle Pitts, you're going to see a little bit of a rise with him over the coming months just because Stefanski has had a history of very productive tight ends, see Njoku, see Fannin over the last few years. Yep. And if he ends up getting a mega contract somewhere else, I mean, you've seen freaking Dawson Knox get paid like
he's still like the 4th highest paid player,
which is insane. But like Kyle Pitts is going to get a decent amount of money wherever he goes. That's kind of just the market for tight ends. Like their market value at the NFL level is a lot higher than like their production output, and it looks a lot prettier than what it actually ends up being. And with someone like Pitts, I honestly don't really care what I end up thinking his production is going to be in 2026. I just know how the community is, how the Dynasty community is, and guys like Sam LaPorta, guys like Tucker Kraft, guys like Fannin and Gadsden. Anytime you see a little glimmer of really, really solid production, they move up board significantly, and Pitts is either going to be in a really solid situation with Stefanski in Atlanta if he stays there, or he's going to get the bag from somebody else who's going to be heavily invested in him, and they're going to talk glowingly about him in training camp, and he's going to be a riser. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're talking about a guy that's going no earlier than like the mid-8th round right now in every startup we've seen, plus Kyle Pitts not being a super desirable player in established leagues either, it's a win-win if you buy Kyle Pitts right now. Not all these players are technically buys, but this one is because if you buy him and he signs somewhere else, he's going to go up in value. And if he signs back with the Falcons, I love that situation for him, like you mentioned, because of what Fannin and Njoku were able to do in Stefanski's offense. Like, I think he's set up for a ton of success there. I think he's a no-brainer buy no matter what.
Let it be noted, today is a day in history in Dynasty domain where we are not saying sell Kyle Pitts.
That is actually, like almost the first time ever.
He's a pretty decent market play right now.
I think he's a really good market play. I think he's super sharp. Okay. So we've already touched on this in multiple videos since we had Ladd McConkey listed as a sell back in the day. And again, that was before the playoffs. It was when the Dynasty offseason was starting. And our entire reasoning for that was because the Greg Roman situation was never going to, in our opinion, allow for Ladd McConkey to kind of like unlock his ceiling. And so then the playoffs happen. The Chargers underperform. Greg Roman gets fired. And so it's like, okay, that's somebody that was hurting Ladd's stock, and he's gone. Our entire argument was predicated around the fact that Ladd was in a situation where the offensive scheme was not going to be good enough for him. Not to mention, the offensive line was going to get better. But at the same time, we weren't necessarily buying that argument because we knew Ladd. We've seen his reception perception data. He is one of the best route runners and separators in the NFL. I think he's one of the better receivers in the NFL. I think he's probably a top 12 receiver in the NFL. But the situation was never going to allow for him to be, in my opinion, super duper high ceiling fantasy productive. Well, then you take away Greg Roman. It's like, okay, now we're talking. But then they hire Mike McDaniel, and it's like, okay, you just went from an offensive coordinator who was hurting Ladd's stock to an offensive coordinator who's helping Ladd's stock. You completely flipped the script on Ladd McConkey from a situational standpoint. And again, the only problem we ever had with Ladd McConkey was his situation. And at the point where the playoffs happened and then Greg Roman got fired, it was like, oh, man. And then they hired McDaniel, and we were like, oh, man. And so, hand up, like we didn't know pre-playoffs that Greg Roman was going to be fired. I've already mentioned this, but like Ladd now is somebody his stock is probably going to go up. I think, like I really do think his stock's going to go up, and I'm happy to just say we'll reverse course on Ladd McConkey because. Again, at the point where we didn't know the coaching change was going to happen, and then it did, why would we be stubborn about it? Like, clearly the situation has changed drastically for Ladd. The difference between Greg Roman and Mike McDaniel is astronomical for a wide receiver, and Ladd is going to be, in my opinion, one of the main beneficiaries of that in this offense. Now, I do think that Hampton is probably going to be the main beneficiary of the Mike McDaniel offense. Again, we've talked about this in the buys video. I won't go in depth, but stock up for Hampton, stock up for Ladd McConkey, and stock up for Oronde Gadsden. All three guys that when you're looking at a Mike McDaniel offense the last couple of years, they've produced a high-end wide receiver, produced a high-end running back at the same time, by the way, and produced a high-end tight end. They made Jonnu Smith relevant in that offense. I think all three of these guys are going to flourish in this offense. A completely different situation now for the Los Angeles Chargers. I expect that to be a very fantasy fantasy potent offense. Not to mention, if you get, again, that offensive line does get better, that directly helps Amari Hampton. I think he actually was somebody who suffered from that last year. He also wasn't getting a ton of yards before first contact, and so that could potentially go up and help Amari Hampton. And honestly, he thrives when he can get going a little bit as he kind of runs downhill. And so I like the situation for all three of these guys. For me, it's stock up for every single one of these guys with the Mike McDaniel signing in LA. This completely changes the calculus of this Chargers offense here.
Yeah, and we have enough history with McDaniel as a play caller that I think it is valid to say that all of these guys are capable of moving up quite a bit over time, and that they can all be productive. I mean, you've, again, seen Devon Achane, you've seen Raheem Mostert, both together very productive. You've seen Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both productive at the same time. You've seen Jonnu Smith with Tyreek Hill, with Devon Achane productive at the same time. So it's usually really like 3-star players at one time at any given moment in a Mike McDaniel offense. And I think the primary beneficiaries are going to be Ladd because of his target volume, Gadsden because of target volume, Amari and Hampton. We didn't mention Quentin Johnson. We think that he'll probably be the 4th guy there who has big play upside. He's still an interesting case as well, though, honestly, if you wanted to take a shot on a guy. Sam LaPorta going to be our next guy here. Drew Petzing is going to be the new OC for the Lions. Obviously, you saw the issues that they had this past season where Dan Campbell actually ended up taking over play calling duties like halfway through the year. LaPorta is interesting to me. I think the OC hiring is going to be, I'm going to be totally honest here. I think the OC hiring is going to be a little bit overplayed in Detroit, where it's going to be like, okay, this is going to look so much better. The offense last year wasn't really the issue for the Lions. The way that they operated the offense wasn't really the issue in terms of fantasy production. Schematically, in terms of, like effectiveness, and can they, call the right plays at the right time in crucial moments in the game like Ben Johnson was able to, and can they be more creative? Sure, we can have conversations about that stuff. I don't think really at the end of the day that it's really going to impact the fantasy outlook of all the assets here, because at the end of the day, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a top 3 running back. Jahmyr Gibbs was a top 3 running back. Jameson Williams finished as a mid to high end wide receiver 2. And Sam LaPorta had his moments before he got injured. Like Montgomery had productive moments too. He was banged up for a decent amount of the season. These guys were all fine. They were, from a production perspective, pretty much the same that they have been for the previous years with Ben Johnson. And I don't think that that's really going to switch. I think my take on Sam LaPorta has been what my take has been on Sam LaPorta for the last couple of years, and that is it's JMO or it's Sam LaPorta. You tell me which one is going to get the significant amount of volume, and I think it's going to be very play calling dependent or schematically dependent based off of what their game plan is any given week. JMO is already inherently boom bust. I think the same is going to relate to Sam LaPorta, if he's going to get touchdown opportunity or not. So do I think there's a stock up opportunity for Sam LaPorta? I think there's always an opportunity for him in one of the most explosive offenses in the league, in one of the most productive offenses in the league. Am I going to put my money on Sam LaPorta being a massive riser? Probably not. I'd probably say neutral for LaPorta. I don't think he can fall really much further than where he's currently being priced this offseason. That being said, I don't think that he's like my biggest riser candidate. So.
I would probably say neutral too. I think if there were an offensive coordinator higher in Detroit that was going to make me a little bit more interested, it would be Drew Petzing, just because of what Trey McBride has been able to do in his offense the last couple of years. And so that is going to be why he gets a lot of buzz. I tend to lean neutral as well. There are a lot of mouths to feed in Detroit, like Nathan said, no matter which way you frame that. And so, but it is interesting, and you have to wonder about LaPorta. Obviously, the ability to stay healthy has been big for him, and we really would like to see him return to the target volume he had in his rookie year in order to actually see his dynasty value go up. He's cheaper than a lot of other guys right now, so it's worth keeping that in mind. If you would like to get some specific insight on your team, where Nathan and I can look at your team, we can tell you which players you should be trading away, selling, or buying right now, tell you everything about your team. You can get a free team blueprint right now. Click the link in the pinned comment, and you can join as an annual Motherflocker with code DOMAIN. You get everything that we offer with this membership. You're going to get, again, one of the best dynasty communities, if not the best dynasty community in the entire freaking world. You're going to get the blueprint. You're going to get infinite blueprint. You're going to get the rookie vault and the bakery, our rookie database as well, our rookie model created by Ryan Bread, plus a whole host of things. We can get you in a league as well if you want to play in a new dynasty league. So it's really the one-stop shop for everything you need for dynasty. You get all the site tools as well well. You get one-on-one access to Nathan and I, which obviously that should be enticing, right? So if you sign up as a new member, again, we can get you a free blueprint, and of course you unlock everything else that we have to offer. It's a great time to join it again. Great time to get a blueprint as well and see. And also tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Flex Night entries close. Again, the Flex Night grand prize is
Friday, February 13th is your deadline.
Yes. The domain draft experience where we fly you to Indy. You're going to be here with us in studio behind the scenes with our entire team during draft weekend. It's the best weekend of the year for us. And yeah, we're giving away a ton of other prizes as well. And so you can check all those out in the info. But if you've got a good Dynasty team or a really bad Dynasty team that you think could be an award winner, there are some awards that are wide open right now. And actually I would say all awards are wide open, but some of them only have like 1 or 2 entries. And so go check it out. Link in the pinned comment. Again, last 48 hours to submit your teams here. But let's talk about the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I've there's been some bad stuff that's happened. John Harbaugh, I don't know why, in his old stubborn fart ways.
Why does Greg Roman continue to get chances in the NFL, period? Like, so many people have tried, and it just ends up being a really, really bad combo. And it's always the Harbaughs. I'm like, they kind of get in their own way with their OC hirings. I'm like, you realize if you just got like why don't you just hire Mike McDaniel? You know what I'm saying?
Or
like
anybody else.
Literally anybody
Nathan.
else.
Anybody.
It's ridiculous.
Matt Nagy is their offensive coordinator.
Like, just ask your brother across the country. Like, you're like, hey, how was your experience with Greg Roman in this offense? He's like, yeah, well, we just fired him. Okay, cool. Maybe we'll just avoid that.
It is so backwards.
It's
Jim was like, yeah, like you're not good enough, and then John was like,
it's your brother. Like, and you guys
can't talk on the phone.
You've both met in the Super Bowl before, and you would think that they would text each other a little bit.
Hey,
but no.
What do you think of this guy? Well, we just fired him. Okay, I'm not gonna hire him then. And also, like, text Andy Reid, dude. You guys you're both old. Hey, this Matt Nagy guy, what do you think? Well, we actually kind of fired him.
Andy Reid did give him his support.
Yeah, because he had to.
Because he had to.
Yeah.
Because he won 2 Super Bowls with Matt Nagy, even though their offense looked really, really bad. And it was really their defense that helped him quite a bit. But
the Giants went from like a slam dunk head coaching hire
to now like it was just neutralized. Like it was just neutralized. So I think now we just have like a lot of questions for their fantasy outlook. Genuinely, I will say I don't know about you. I'm more concerned about Nabers than I am about Dart, just because of how Dart produces.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And Scadaboo, I think Scadaboo's going to be. I think he's going to be more than fine.
Yeah.
Nagy has shown again. The big issue here is Matt Nagy is a play caller. He can use the crap out of his slot wide receivers, that's for sure.
Oh, he sure can.
Wan'Dale Robinson is very interesting if he ends up staying with New York. We're gonna talk about him in the free agency section, but Nabers needs his big play down the field.
Oh yeah,
production to be like a hyper productive guy. Not to mention the injury concerns there as well, but. I think he's the big question mark here.
Look, I mean,
for sure. I don't know how explosive their offense is going to be down the field. Mahomes was struggling with explosive pass plays for the last 2 to 3 years. So,
what evidence do we have that it's going to be explosive at all, dude? Like, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
And I'm not going to go out of my way, so don't take this the wrong way. I'm not going to go out of my way to say a stock down on Nabers. Although if it's anything, it is probably for Nabers. Like, here's how I want to frame it to you. I'm not going to move him down my rankings. I'm not going to say you shouldn't draft him. I'm not going to say he's a must sell. I'm not saying any of that at all. If there were ever an offensive coordinator / offensive assistant hire combination that were to hurt Nabers' stock, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is the one, you guys. Yeah. This is, if I had to pick the worst possible scenario for him,
I would pick Nagy as the OC over Greg Roman. I'm glad that Greg Roman isn't the OC because the numbers don't lie there. At least we've seen like wide receiver 1 and running back 1 production with Nagy and as a play caller in years past. They're very few and far between, but it's less like concerning than Greg Roman. It's still not pretty at all. It's not pretty at all.
No, it's not. And so
again, that one's pretty simple.
I'm framing it to you this way.
I think the proof is in the pudding.
And again, I think Dart is able to transcend a little bit more because of his rushing upside there. I think that is worth noting as well. And so I'll let you decide stock whatever. I think it's probably neutral for Dart.
I'll put it this way: there are a lot of premier upside wide receivers in the cornerstone tier, just like Nabers. If you just want to go ahead and pivot from Nabers to Puka or CeeDee Lamb or Amon-Ra or Gibbs, I have No issue with that whatsoever because every single one of those guys is safer than he is. Harold Fannin is hopefully going to be a beneficiary of Todd Monken now being the new head coach there, who's obviously the offensive play caller for the Ravens the last few years. Monken had his moments. He had some really, really good moments. I think Quinshon Judkins is another guy that could really benefit from this. You saw the run game kind of take a big step up once they fired Greg Roman and got Monken, and then they obviously brought in Derrick Henry the last couple of years. Henry has had a ton of success. Lamar has had multiple MVP seasons with Monken. This, I think, is going to be a nice pairing for how Cleveland wants to operate their offense with the personnel that they currently have. And I think that's going to really help Harold Fannin specifically. Of all the guys that you would want to see kind of take the reins as the play caller to make up for Stefanski leaving and still help the tight ends there, it would be Harold Fannin, not to mention Njoku's exploring free agency. So if you're worried about Njoku, I don't think it's any guarantee that he comes back and re-signs with Cleveland. And Fannin, at the end of the day, by default, is going to be the guy there. Not to mention he kind of operates as a wide receiver like we expected. He's an undersized tight end listed as a tight end. He's basically a wide receiver getting wide receiver volume, more volume than we've really ever seen with David Njoku on a consistent basis, and we saw it his rookie season. Harold Fannin being priced at a cheaper often than Tyler Warren. We don't really see much of a difference between him and a guy like Tyler Warren. He's a little bit pricier than someone like LaPorta or Kyle Pitts. So there's a little bit of a premium that you'd have to pay there if you're trying to move up from one of those guys. I think it is worth it in this offense. I think it's going to be built for your short to intermediate, middle of the field type of guys like Harold Fannin. And then Judkins coming off the injury, I think is actually going to benefit as well.
Yeah, and so I totally agree with that. I think it's going to be huge for him. And he's honestly priced better than most tight ends in Dynasty right now, like from a startup perspective. So, all right, Marvin Harrison Jr. This is it for Marv. Like, you got to do it this year. I will say, like, his production his first 2 years doesn't analytically, like, eliminate him from the possibility of still being that dominant.
It actually doesn't.
No, because he's had, 900 plus yards in a season already. So, like, he is,
The expectation of the bar is just higher for elite level premier wide receivers in this day and age. So, yeah, that's fair.
And look, I think with LaFleur going there, like, obviously, again, this is an offensive-minded coach, right? It is an offensive coach, somebody out of the Sean McVay system, and so if there's ever, and by default the Shanahan system, if you wanted to see somebody go there and try to get the most out of Marvin Harrison Jr., I think this is the type of hire that would do it.
I'm going to be totally honest, man. Marv, it doesn't matter what play caller is there if he doesn't get out of his own head. He was literally in his own head last year. Like, before the injury happened, this dude, like, we never make a big deal out of drops. He is, I don't know if he was like a head case last year, but it looked like it because they were trying to give him opportunities and he was just dropping balls galore, and tried to give him a good amount of target volume. He got it and he just couldn't capitalize. Like, he was body catching more than I've ever seen him body catch last year. So he needs to clean that up.
Yeah. And I do think that, he's still got it in him. He's very young. He's, needed to mature. He obviously came out as a 21-year-old, right? I think with Marv, like, I think it's an ideal hire for a type of receiver like Marv, but this is it for Marvin, so we're going to have to see it on the field. And then Devon Achane. This one's tough. I don't know. And people have been asking me what I think about, his stock with Bobby Slowick going there. Obviously, Bobby Slowick was the Texans offensive coordinator the year that Stroud did super well, and then he, wasn't. He was also there the next year, right? Where Stroud
they fired him.
And then they fired him.
And then their offense.
They were talking about him getting head coaching jobs after that first year.
I know.
And so, in terms of running back production in that offense, though, it wasn't necessarily something that was a feature point of that offense. CJ Stroud was slinging it. Nico broke out under his offense.
Actually, well, hang on. Last year, because they fired him after last season, right? That was Joe Mixon's really good year.
Wasn't it's okay? Yeah. So that's good. I mean. What was Mixon that year though? Like, he was a
running back 6.
That would have been 2023, right?
No, 2024.
2024. Okay, he was the running back 17 that year, and so
because he missed time.
Yeah, he played 14 games that year and was the running back 17. Still had a 1,000-yard season though and 11 touchdowns. So that's not bad. The problem is Joe Mixon is such a different player than Devon Achane. Like, with Achane, I don't think we've correctly grasped how much of his production came from the receiving game. Last year, he had 67 receptions for 488 yards and 4 touchdowns. Okay, quick math here. That's 130-ish points Out of his 322 that came from the receiving game, the year before that, it was even more. Out of his 299. And with Achane, like, he's a phenomenal talent. He's a premier Dynasty asset. He's elite. I really am going to go neutral here. I think it could be good for Achane. I don't think it's going to be better, though. Like, I don't think you're going to get... I think the Mike McDaniel offense, I think Achane was honestly perfect for it. And I think that's why they drafted Devon Achane. And not saying that I think he's going to take a step down with Slowick there, but like, it's not as ideal as the Mike McDaniel situation. I don't think any situation would be, right? And so neutral is fine. Like, I think I've maybe prefer Amari and Hampton over him straight up in Dynasty now, so it's affected my stock a little bit on him. Outside of that, it's kind of neutral for me. I'm curious what you think. Like, I don't have any super strong feelings about the hire. I just don't think it can be as good as the Mike McDaniel situation was for him.
I mean, could he be as good? I think he's talented enough to be as good. Do I think that this is going to be something that like elevates him to a point where he's like Bijan level? Probably not. Do I think he's going to be notably worse? No. It's very neutral for me. I think he's very safe.
Yeah. So a lot of people asking about that. I don't know. It could. I'll let you guys decide on that one. All right. And a little bit more quickly here, let's talk about the upcoming free agents in this class. We can't really give a stock up, stock down, or neutral. Most of the guys are free agents. We're almost always going to say to hold in Dynasty and maybe buy, depending on what their price is. You don't want to sell these guys until after they get that value bump. You're always going to have free agents in Dynasty get a value bump after they sign with their team on a big extension, or they sign with a new team and you've got a new fresh situation. You've got a lot of hype around them. So free agents can be really good market plays. Obviously, we came out in, I think we were saying to buy guys like Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. I think it was a long time ago. And since then, you've had about 1,000 videos on YouTube telling you to buy Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. And so you're not buying those guys anymore. Like, Breece is in the 4th round. Kenneth Walker's probably in the 5th round. Like, the buy window...
Breece started falling at the end of the season, too.
They did. And so it was really nice to snag them up. Kenneth Walker obviously has already gained that value and more back. And Breece Hall has gained some of it back and has more to gain after the contract situation. So with free agents, like, these are mostly guys you're going to hold and wait. And if you want to cash out on them after they go to a new situation, we can evaluate then. And obviously we'll do a whole, other analysis video talking about stock up or down for these guys after they sign or re-sign with their current or a new team.
Let's do stay or go for this section too.
Okay, cool. Travis Etienne. My prediction is going to be stay. And for me, Etienne in that offense, like, obviously he was good last year. It wasn't 2023 11 touchdowns, Travis Etienne, but he had 13 total touchdowns, which is actually more than 2023 because of the receiving touchdowns. Obviously, in terms of efficiency, it was the second best of his career behind his rookie year. So he had a good year last year. He was the running back 10 overall. I think that this is probably the best situation for him currently. Obviously, you talk about him going to the Bears. I don't think the Bears make that move. So, if the Bears were to theoretically pursue Travis Etienne, yeah, he would be dynamite there, I think. I don't think in terms of like going from Swift to Etienne, the Bears would look at that as like, it's a huge upgrade worth paying X amount more on top of what we would have paid Swift to get Etienne. So that's why I'm going to say Travis Etienne. I know he wants to stay in Jacksonville. I'm going to say stay. I think he's somebody you should be buying or holding right now. And I honestly think it's a good situation for him to stay there in the league.
I think the only objective upgrade in free agency at running back right now that's better than Travis Etienne would be Breece Hall. I don't think they're going to land Breece Hall. I will go with stay as well. It makes Tootin interesting if he leaves, though, which is why we think he's a decent upside shot. Javonte Williams is another guy where I'm going to go stay for Javonte Williams too. Jerry Jones has gone out of his way to say that he wants to keep Javonte in Dallas, which that's a lot coming from Jerry, who is very non-committal about everybody who's like his best offensive players and has been, including Dak. Obviously, you saw it with Micah Parsons last year. Javonte is like one of the first guys that I've seen where he's like, yeah, I want him to stay. I think Javonte is going to stick around. I don't think that there's anybody that they're going to be in a position to get this year at the running back position that's going to be better than that. Javonte looked like a above average starting running back this season. He had moments of looking really, really solid. The touchdown regression came kind of towards the end of the year, so it was a little bit more of an underwhelming finish to the season. Avery knew that more than anybody. But that offense is so explosive, and he was a big part of that. I think they're going to want to keep him around.
Yeah, I'm going to say stay. I think that Jerry Jones is going to make a good decision for once in his life. They're going to bring back Javonte. And I personally I think it's a good situation for him. I agree. I think that, obviously he was better at the beginning of the season than he was. Like I said, I know that very well. But at the end of the day, The Cowboys have much bigger issues in running back. Much bigger issues. Rico Dowdle, he's gone. He's going to go from Carolina, almost certainly. And I think he's somebody that could be a pretty significant riser if he goes somewhere where he can have a role. And a running back in a year where the running backs in the draft this year are not going to be guys who, in my opinion, most of them step on an NFL field and become like running back ones. Rico Dowdle could be fantasy productive next year. So depending on what his price is, I think he's somebody who's going to go to a new situation. I think he's like a sneaky little like investment. We talked about him in the buys video. So
yeah, I would go there as well. Breece Hall, another guy that I think is gone. I think one of the biggest reasons that Breece Hall hasn't moved up boards significantly is there's a legitimate concern from the community that he's actually going to stay with the Jets. I'm just telling you right now, with the way that the Jets are rebuilding, they have done dumber things in the past, but I think if anything, they've learned their lesson from paying Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be extending Breece Hall with this caliber of rebuild. They're going to be the worst of the worst for the next 2 to 3 seasons. It makes zero sense for them to hold on to Breece Hall. Breece Hall does not want to be there. If you remember Breece Hall during when they were trading away everybody in the middle of the season last year, Sauce and Quinton Williams, they were trading away their whole defense. Breece Hall was literally on social media like begging to be traded.
Yes, he was.
And
he was upset he didn't get traded.
The Chiefs had a deal on the table that was, I think, a couple of fourths or something like that, and
that's crazy.
They wanted a third, and the Chiefs wouldn't budge. So they were prepared to let go of Breece Hall as well at the right price. If they're going to take a third for Breece Hall, they're going to get a compensatory. I think if they let him walk in free agency, they'll get the same. They're going to let him walk.
Yeah, so. I agree. I think he's going to go, and I think he's going to be a huge riser wherever he signs, and we've been talking about that for a while. Kenneth Walker's already risen. The playoff run really helped Kenneth Walker. The no Charbonnet playoff run.
I think the Charbonnet ACL tear.
I think he's going to
stay.
I think he's staying now.
Yeah,
and honestly,
he's a lot more interesting now because Charbonnet's probably going to miss a good amount of time this year.
But when Charbonnet comes back, I do not be surprised if it's same old.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, don't. Like, I think there are going to be some concerns once Charbonnet's healthy.
I already
again.
know the answer to this question, but I'll just ask it for you so that you can answer the camera.
Okay.
Did Kenneth Walker, as a running back, look any different than he has his entire career during the playoff run?
We knew he was capable of this. Like, this was never a question of like, oh, Kenneth Walker, he has this ability to bounce runs to the outside and use his speed and athleticism to beat defenders and break off big plays. That's crazy. But we knew this. The problem with Kenneth Walker was his fantasy ceiling was always extremely capped by his red zone usage, especially. And the overall 50-50 snap share split with Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker is probably going to go back, I think. George Pickens, franchise tag for me. That's where I'm going. I think they're going to tag him.
I'm going to go. There's been talk about him getting tagged. Tag. I hate the tag answer because it's either tag and trade. It's either tag and trade or tag and sign.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you see a tag put on a player where they actually play on the tag because the cap hit is
and
ridiculous.
He won't. Pickens won't.
I don't think he will. So they're going to have to either figure out an extension, or they're going to trade him on that tag. It's basically just going to be kicking the can down the road, and we're probably not going to know until like freaking July. So
yeah, I think you're right.
I agree with you that they're going to tag him because I don't think they're going to figure anything out by the new league year.
I don't think they are either. I think this could be a holdout situation. I think if I had to make a prediction right now, I would say stay over go. I think that, because I don't know if the Cowboys should do that. And so if there's something that I think they maybe shouldn't do, I think they're going to do it. And so because I personally, I think paying George Pickens that contract with Lamb's contract and Dak's contract, and you're going to pay Jeanty this year.
Funny thing is, Jerry regrets re-signing Lamb.
I think he does, and
we've got a little social experiment in Cincinnati where they paid 2 wide receivers with Burrow at top dollar, and they don't have a defense, and they're also missing the playoffs. That being said, Jerry has done dumber things, so I would like him to stay.
I want him to stay
in Dallas for our fantasy purposes long term.
Yeah, I agree. I love Pickens if he stays in Dallas.
I will say this though, he's not a bad marketplace still, regardless, because whether he stays, where people are going to be like, oh yes, let's go, yay, he's going to keep doing that same production, or he goes and gets paid top dollar as the number one option somewhere else, I think he's a very safe investment right now. All
right, rapid fire for these less valuable guys here. Tyler Algier, expect him to go, and I think he's going to be a riser if he goes somewhere we could get a role. I think he's talented enough to have a role in the NFL.
Mike Evans has shown time and time again that he wants to stay with Tampa. So while I would like to see him go to a different situation, I think he wants to end his career in Tampa. I think you'll see continual 1-year deals until he decides to be done.
I think that they're going to let him go. I think they're not going to re-sign him. So I think he's probably going to go.
I think he would take a team-friendly deal for them to keep him.
Maybe, and he should.
And
I
you've
think that's
seen that
smart
with
for him.
other guys in Tampa. They like Tampa.
Yeah.
Like Levante David did that.
I would like Tampa
So-
too after this 12 inches of snow in Indy. Debo Samuel, I don't know. I don't care. I don't care.
He's gone.
Yeah, okay. That's what I think too. So I don't care. I don't really think Debo, I don't think about him. Like, I do not think about you, Debo. I'm sorry. I just don't. I have no opinion on him.
Rip. Juwan Jennings. I'm gonna go. So he had a holdout actually this the off season before the 2025 season started. I'm gonna go stay with Juwan Jennings as well. He fits that offense so well. And whoever they draft, like weapons wise this season, because they will have to get somebody to replace Brandon Ayuk. I think it's going to be another complimentary role player. There aren't very many like alphas that they can get where they're drafting in the first round. I think they're probably going to take somebody day 2, whether it's Jeremy Bernard, whether it's Elijah Surratt, whether it's somebody, I don't know, Concepcion. Like they're going to get somebody that's another role player that complements what Juwan Jennings' role is in that offense. And he's been very, very crucial to their offense's success in the post Debo Prime era. So we'll see there, but I'm going to say stay.
Nah, yeah, and people are going to use that as a Ricky Pearsall stock up or down, which is like, oh my gosh. Wandale. Oh, this one's spicy because I think he could be so good in that offense, in an offense where it's, not a great situation.
I think with the Nagy hire, I think he stays.
I think he stays too. And then Alec Pierce.
I think he also stays.
Yeah, I think he likes Indy a lot. It's very close to home for him. I don't think he has a desire to leave. I think he likes the coaching there. I think he likes his teammates. I think he's going to stay in Indy. So there you go. I mean, a lot's happening right now, guys. We have a lot of movers this year. I mean, the draft's a little bit underwhelming in our opinion this year. Not the wide receivers. The wide receivers are great, but everything else is underwhelming. Free agency and coaching changes is making up for it in the entertainment value here.
This is going to be wild.
It's going to be crazy. So this is without any trades, dude. Like, if we have trades that go down.
I was going to say, we didn't mention A.J. Brown.
No. I mean, if we have trades, like, we're going to be...
We're going to be swimming in content.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to have tons of stuff to talk about. So make sure you drop a like if you enjoy the content. Make sure you're subscribed as well. If you play Dynasty, if you're a Dynasty diehard, again, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you drop a like in the video. And also, again, Flex Night, last couple hours to submit here. So make sure you get your teams in, win the grand prize. Come hang out with me at night during draft weekend. We love you guys. Appreciate you. See you soon.